Well, top of the morning there, YouTubers. James, it's been a while. Been really busy. I just got my business stuff kind of sorted out. So, actually, it's 6 a.m. right now. I've been up since about 4:45. I got about a 4-hour one-way drive. I'm going to pick up some merchandise, and then a 4-hour track back home. So. Yeah, so I thought I'd jump on here for a minute and just say hello, see how everybody's doing. I'm doing very well. A lot of my New Year's resolutions, kind of fell off, but I've been really strong with them, and this year's been far, far better than the last few years I've had for sure. And a lot of that's because of my focus. I've shifted my focus a lot on different things, and I'm really starting to, as I get older, realize the real importance of things in life and what's truly of value. I mean, I kind of always knew, but sometimes you get complacent. I mean, Lord knows I have. With that, just wanted to say, to be good people. This world is so full of grossness and anger, and not to say that I'm immune to any of that stuff. I get angry. I have severe anger problems. I truly do. I tend to get mad at myself, I think, and in that kind of area I internally fight myself, but it's gotten a lot better. It truly has. Like, I just really kind of done a lot of soul searching and deep diving and a lot of prayer, a lot of reading and stuff like that. It really helps. It truly does. And starting to identify with how I used to be, my old self, and I'm really enjoying that, and continuing down that path has been really a blessing, and starting to actually like myself again. I'll always kind of have, but at the same time hated myself, because anytime I make a mistake, I let it just fester and kill me. At least I used to. Now I'm just kind of that's kind of part of life. People make mistakes. I mean, I've made more in my life than I can count. And instead of just letting it go and being just don't do it next time. It's I won't repeat it. Sometimes I would, because of just consciousness or, stupid things. I used to drink a lot of alcohol and stuff like that. In turn, I would make a lot of dumb choices, and I'd regret them, and then I would, but there you go, next Friday, what am I doing? I'm back at the bar, and, I just look back at those kinds of things, and it's just a matter of your willpower. It's the self-control, the fruitage of the Spirit, trying to just embrace those more in my life, and show them more in my life, and just practice them, and grow in strength with those things. And it's really a good thing. It's just really a good, regardless if you're a believer or not, it's just really a good way to go about life. It truly is. It's the things of importance. A lot of people don't have self-control, and that's where my biggest flaw always was, to be honest, was self-control. Whether it was, like I said, my anger issues aren't really there, but not really anymore. Not as strong, at least, but I have moments where I'll just get fired up, and then I just have to remind myself instantly. I don't run amok or cause havoc or anything like that. I'll get pissed off, and I'll be like, what the heck, man? And I'll think in my mind, I'm like, just calm down, dude. Calm down. There's no reason to get upset and get worked up over anything. Especially if it's something outside your control, just let it go. It's easier said than done. I know. I had things happen with my ex-wife, essentially, and it took me a long freaking time to let her go. A long time. And in my heart, I still love her. I always will. She's the mother of my children, and there is that. However, there's a difference between loving somebody and, forgetting and just and being complacent in that, and being stupid and being like, oh, it's okay, I love her. I'll always love her. I'll always have a love in her, for her. But if she was to come on hands and knees and beg me, hey, can we try again? I'd be like, hell no. She's the only woman I ever wanted. You know how hard it is to walk away from that? And I would. Not to say that she is or she will. I honestly think she will at some point. But it doesn't matter if she does or doesn't, because there's no redemption there. I forgive her. She betrayed me. Yeah. I had a lot of things I did in the relationship that were not, desirable, so to speak, at least to myself. I wasn't necessarily a bad guy to her, but I had my flaws. Let's just put it that way. I'm human, and I don't think it warranted us going through what we do, or what happened, her cheating and betraying me, and everything else, and leaving me, and then now I have my 3 kids, and which is great, but it sucks that I don't get to see them, as much as I'd like to. I'd like to come home and see them every day, and now it's like every other week I get to see them, and it sucks because they're my life, but it's one of those things that you kind of, there's nothing I can do about it, really. I mean, things could be in a lot worse situations, so I look at that from a sense of gratitude. But yeah, like I can let that go. It's like I can forgive her, and I do forgive her. I'm like, yeah, it sucks what happened to us, and it sucks that this happened, but I forgive her. But forgiving and forgetting are 2 different things, and it's like, yeah, I won't forget it because I'd be a fool. I'd be a fool, but it's one of those learning experiences that you kind of grow through it, It's like I used to get in a lot of fights when I was younger. I was actually, it's kind of funny, being a white boy and looking like I do. People don't think I can scrap, but I can throw down. I always have been able to, and now I'm 6'3", and I'm pretty muscular, and I'm like 220, so people are actually kind of intimidating, so they're intimidated by me, so nobody really screws with me, which is cool, because I'm not like looking for that. But I used to get in a lot of fights and stuff when I was younger, and as I've gotten older, I mean, I won't let anybody disrespect me, or if somebody swings at me or something, I'm going to defend myself, clearly, like any person should. But instead of jumping to it and being all hot-headed, I tend to do in my mind what's called being the bigger man, and I'm going to walk away. I'm going to be the bigger man. It doesn't make you a pussy. It makes you a grown man to go, yeah, what is this really going to solve? Wow, I'm going to beat you up, or wow, you're going to beat me up. Cool. Yeah, I don't want to hurt anybody. It's like, if I could walk away, deal with the internal shame of, because it still will. Somebody tries to punk you out, and you're just like, as long as they don't hit you, just walk away. Just be like, cool, man. Yep, great story. You might be fuming, you might want to react or retaliate and be all crazy. And, I mean, I would. Would I do it? No, I'd walk away. Now, them attacking, then that's where, situation changes. But as far as it is, I consider that like an area of growth, like having those mentalities to be strong enough to face the problem, even though you want to do something, because it might just be boiling in your blood, or or sticking in your heart, like I said, like with my ex, like if she came back on hands and knees, as much as I would love to grab her and just swing her around in circles and just hug her and kiss her and just embrace her and just go, I love you so much, never again, everything's going to be so much different, da 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 da. As much as I want that, I wouldn't entertain it. I'd say no. And to me, I look at that as a sense of growth, because it's really it's really standing up for yourself more than to just hastily jump into it and just be like, to fight or to give in or whatever, I don't know if that makes sense, but it kind of makes sense to me. So, yeah, I mean, really, there's an old saying that cooler heads prevail, and that's really such a true statement. It really is, because, I mean, like I said, I had I used to be a real hothead, like, I would get set off. I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, like I said, I got in a lot of fights, but I wasn't ever out just to hurt people and stuff like that. Like, I would get more pissed off at like a red light that wouldn't change. I'd be like in my car yelling. You know, people probably think I'm nuts. I mean, they're stupid light. There's no cars there. You know, just because it's frustrating. It pisses you off. And like, as I've gotten older, I kind of realize the societal structures of things. And I think those kinds of things are intentional. A lot of the things in our lives that are ass backwards, so to speak, which is pretty much everything in our life. Nothing seems to go the way it should. And you have all these people, we're going to vote for this, got to do this, got to do this. And it's like, no, all that stuff is an intentional setup. It's to keep, I personally think it's to keep us in a constant state of chaos, of confusion, of frustration, of anger, of sadness, of all these things. You know, these people, oh, we got to push for free health care, and we got to do this because we care. And it's like, but you guys are openly poisoning everybody with food. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. No, because they don't. There's people that think we can vote our way out of this and we can do this. No, we can't. We can't. And that's just one other thing, you know, of a lot of it's societal. But getting back to the anger, I mean, that's how I always was. I'd be playing a video game, you know, and I'd lose and I'd get pissed off and I'm like, game cheated, you know, and I'd get mad and I'd like break my remote. like I guess it's juvenile stupidity. It really is. You know, I'm not like that anymore. I mean, I tend to try to have a cooler head now. And anytime I do get heated up, like I say, I'll try to take a breath and I'll stop myself in my tracks instead of just going off the deep end, because your body instantly wants to go into, and I think that's just a part of human nature of seeing red. Of getting into that emotional state. Like, your body will get into an emotional state of, yes, you need a release of this emotion right now. That's like with anything, I think. Like happiness, when people get happy, they tend to get over happy. When people get sad, they tend to get overly sad. When people get angry, they tend to get overly angry. When people get nervous, they tend to get overly nervous. You know, it's some kind of a chemical chemical reaction in our brains that says, hey, like, at least maybe in mine, I don't know, to say, hey, okay, you're not going to half-ass this. If you're going to do it, you need this emotion, you need to get this emotion out, so get this emotion out. And instead of, because when you're in a chaotic state of emotion, no matter what the emotion is, you'll tend to make worse decisions. And in those senses of, you know, like me, like, I'd be in immense sadness, just be like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm gonna do. This is terrible. The world's collapsing on me. I need to escape from reality. Yeah. So I would drink. I would go fool around with girls, you know, like, I would do those things to release. I would go balls to the wall, so to speak, with it. And not one time did any of that stuff ever do anything good for me. Was any outcome ever better than the start? Might have masked the pain. It's a Band-Aid. It's putting a Band-Aid on it for a brief second, you know, and then the scab dries, and then it's like, okay, take the Band-Aid off, you know, you're sober again, or you got your rocks off, or, you know, you punched a hole in the wall, you got all those things. Well, that scab is still vulnerable. It can still be cut back open, you know. And then once it heals completely, there's still a scar there. Can that scar be irritated? Absolutely. Until there's a point where it gets to life. Like, I have a giant scar on my side where I crashed BMX. I used to ride a lot of BMX, and I had like back in the day, we used to cut our handlebars short, like back in like the early 2000s, late 90s. I was just kind of like, you know, so I got some new handlebars, and I cut like an inch off with a saw. And I left a little tiny metal shard, like a little ridge. I didn't know that was there. And I was at these new trails I'd never been to, and I went to do a bar spin over one of these jumps, and I messed up, and I didn't catch my bar and fell onto my bike, and the handlebars obviously turned, and that little tiny ridge slit me up my side, you know. And I have like it used to be bigger. Didn't get stitches, but they had to like do what's called a butterfly, where they like taped it shut basically. It didn't go super deep, but I still have a scar there. You know, it was, when it first happened, it was probably 7 inches. Now the scar is shrunk so much that I don't even know it's there. When I take a shower or something, I'll look at it and like, it's there, but it's pretty faint, you know, so the scar is kind of forget about it. Now at that point, then it's no longer an irritation. It is a cool scar though. I like it. It's pretty kick-ass. It's kind of in a cool spot, you know, and it's only about a 4-inch scar now, something like that. And I'm pretty pasty white, so it doesn't really stand out. It kind of just blends in with my Nosferatu complexion. So, but it is a pretty sweet scar, and like I look at it more as like a blessing now than like a, you know, like it's just like a battle scar kind of thing. But eventually, you know, you'll forget those scars. But when those cuts are still deep or still fresh in your mind, and they can last, man. They can last for a long freaking time, especially if they're emotional scars. They can last your whole life, you know. Now, it's one of those things, like, do you want those things to stick around your whole life? I mean, it's not healthy to. You know, some things, you know, you might think, oh, I can't live without this. I can't live without this person. I can't go on. It's like, yeah, you really can. You have to make the conscious choice, though, to do so. You have to want to say, okay, enough's enough. You know, because a lot of the time, like me included, you know, like I looked at it from every scenario of knowing that this chick cheated on me, knowing that after near a decade, moving states with this woman, leaving a amazing career I had for almost 20 years of my life, you know, where I made tons of money and I had full benefits. I had 5 weeks paid of vacation per year. I made like $50 an hour base pay, got tons of overtime. It was a great job. It was an actual career, you know, and I left it and moved states up here and left all my family and my friends, and then that kind of thing happened. And, you know, so in turn, I'm like, oh, all the stuff we went through, and we have kids together, and we had pets, and I tried to salvage it, knowing that she cheated, knowing that all the sacrifices I made. Not to say that she didn't make any either, but I mean, she really didn't, to be honest. But I mean, it's just one of those things. Like, you gotta consciously choose to move past it. And like me, I was holding on for so long because I was just like, no, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to make things right. You know, and it's like, well, you really can't unless somebody wants to make things right. And sometimes they just don't. So it's like one of those things, you know. So it's a pretty crappy situation sometimes that we get into in life, and life will test you. Life will, I mean, I've had the darkest times of my life in the last 2 years, and a lot of that was emotional damage, and it could have been a lot easier if I wouldn't have made some of the choices that I made. But I chose to, because I chose to hold on. I chose to try to figure out a way through. I chose to numb myself instead of face the pain. I chose to try new directions. And a lot of stuff was immense growth. And I think I had to go through those things personally to consciously get to a point where I said, yeah, enough is enough. I'm going to choose all these bad habits. I'm going to choose to walk in this path. I'm going to choose to do this. I'm going to choose to right this wrong. I'm going to choose to let this go. I'm going to choose to forgive this. I'm going to choose to, you know, and just bring an immense sense of peace to myself. And I mean, not to get off tangent, but I mean, the people that don't believe in God, it's like, how can you not? Like just look at the way the process of everything works. Think about who we actually even are. What are we? You know, why are we here? Where are we going? What is the point? Everything else. Like, the more that you dive into those things and you really focus, you look at it and you go, wow, grass grows. Interesting. It needs the sun for that. It needs water for that. The Bible always speaks about Jesus Christ. You know, who is Jesus Christ? He's the Son, right? He's the Son of God. Well, what does the actual physical, tangible sun do? It brings warmth, like God, like Jesus. It brings growth. brings light. It is the essence of everything that we need. What the Bible speaks of living waters. What is living waters? You need water, clearly. Everything needs water. Everything. For growth, to sustain, to produce life, to, it's amazing. It really is. So like I don't understand how people don't believe in God or anything like that, but going to it, it's when you put your trust in, and when you try to do things in a fashion that it just makes you want to be a better person. It makes you want to correct those wrongs. It makes you want to, I don't know, like it's incredible, but at the same time, it's almost like God testing you through these trials. Like I said, I went through some of my darkest times in the last couple years, like my darkest times. Some of the most brightest times too. So it's kind of like the light was shining through, and it was just like, I got to open the door more to the light. I opened the door to the light. Now the door is open, and it's nice, but it's like bringing in God, because clearly God exists. And if you don't believe that God exists, look at the world. Does the world run correctly? No. Does it run smoothly? No. Are people friendly and everything? No. It's because there's evil. Because this is Satan's world. The Bible speaks of that too. If there's evil, then clearly there has to be good. Are there good people out there? Absolutely. Does Satan exist? Absolutely. So if Satan exists, then God has to exist. You can look around and you can see it. You can feel it. And just look at your life. Whenever things get really, really, really bad, like at like your darkest hour, you fall through rock bottom. You hit rock bottom, then you fall through like I did. You have so much stress on you, but you also will get those glimmers of light. You'll also get those things that just, I went through the worst crap, and I was in such a bad frame of mind. I was in such just chaos within myself, but I had such a weird peace within myself as well. And I had such a profound sense to do what's right, to try to do what's right. And growth. There was growth that was happening even in the darkness. It was weird, like positive growth. And I believe that's God. I think that's that glimmer of light. But when you hit those rock bottoms, it'll seem like everything in the world will just collapse around you. My ex leaving me, betraying me, and everything was such a dagger to my heart. It tore me open. It cut me so deep, and it was one of those scabs, that just keeps bleeding. It's scarred now, but that scar is always going to have an agitation, because I can't have children anymore, for one. Secondly, I don't want any more children. My children are the best blessing God's ever given me, and I'm beyond grateful for them. But I'm never gonna be with another woman and say, yep, that's the mother of my children. She is, and only her. So I will always have a deep love because of that bond between us. So that scar is always gonna be agitated. But with that happening, with her betraying me and leaving, that cut deep. It cut so deep. Now, with my kids, it's still an irritation, because I love my kids. They're my life, and not being able to see them as much as I'd like to, and I can't just hey buddy, to my son, yeah, there's a movie that came out, let's go see it, or just be like, yep, I'm gonna come pick up one of my daughters, and we're gonna go do this. It's not, it doesn't really work that way anymore, and it kind of sucks. But with that happened, that was brutal enough. It was the hardest thing I've ever went through in my life. Not long after that, my best friend, my brother, passed away, from alcoholism. He had severe depression, and, he drank a lot. He had a lot of bad things happen in his life, and instead of, he didn't want to change. He felt like, I think that he just felt he was wronged. you know, because there was a lot of stuff that happened to my brother that was really not fair, but in a lot of sense, like, that's life, you know. And we got a lot more of the short end of the stick. I've had so much crap happen in my life that 99.9% of the people on this planet haven't faced. And I'm not saying that like to gloat or to be like, oh yeah, you know, victimhood, because I've been the victim in my mind for a long time, and now I just look at it like, yeah, I know, it's a blessing. I look at myself as more of a soldier now, you know, to go through what I've went through, and with that I look to God and I go, yeah, thank you, God, because without God, I mean, none of us would be here. But I mean, I should have been dead at birth. I had 2 strokes. People are like, you've had strokes before? I'm like, I've had 2. I'm still highly intelligent. I can speak for the most part clearly. I know sometimes people are like, think I'm, you know, drinking or something because my voice is a little bit slurry. You know, I have a couple little things from it, from when I had my brain surgery and all that stuff, and God's kept me here, and it's great. So I look at it from a sense of positivity now. But I mean, it's all a matter of what you do with it. I mean, like, I wallowed and I was in self-pity, and, you know, like, why this stuff, you know, this person didn't have this happen, this person didn't have this happen, why does it come to me, and all this. And then I just look at everything else and I'm like, no, don't be like that. Like, I could have been one of those people that had the thing like I did and actually passed away, or been a vegetable, or, you know, whatever other things that, you know, the doctors told me would happen. I told my parents, you know. I remember my sister and my brother coming in to tell me bye because they thought I was going to die when I was 8. The doctor said, you know, before I had my surgery, they said, you're going to want to go in and tell them goodbye. I'm like, came out a miracle, an absolute miracle, and that's because of God. And I look at it from my life of all the disgusting choices I've made and the stupidity and everything else, and I'm like, what a slap in the face, not only, you know, to myself or to others that have had these kinds of things, but it's like to God's, you know, took me through all this stuff, and like, how do I repay, you know? So like, that's one of the reasons why I get immense shame on myself too, you know, and get the internal frustration and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, when you're tested. A lot of stuff I think is God, but a lot of it is the enemy. You know, I had my ex leave me and everything else, left me devastated. My brother passes away, you know, who was my best friend, and, you know, I'm isolated up here in Idaho. I don't really know a whole ton of people. Kind of like it that way, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, like, I just wanted my family, really, and that was it. You know, what I had left, you know, our dog, you know, that we had for a long time, my Gracie, and I had to put her down in November, and yeah, it was just, actually it was October. It was just terrible. It was just terrible. You know, she was getting really old. She's a really, really old pit bull, like, outlived her time hugely, and she was still all right. She'd still be alive right now, I guarantee it. But she was getting, you know, I don't know, she was just getting old. I mean, you just put it that way. I guarantee she'd still be alive and spunky and all the stuff that she was, but I could tell she was having some troubles and some pain. She just, I think, had real good willpower, and God was gracious enough to say, hey, you know, she can stay. You know, when I put her down, you know, I cried like a little baby, you know, like, I love that puppy, you know. And now I'm like, oh cool, now I don't have a dog at home, you know, this sucks, you know. And it's just like when it rains, it pours, you know. I had tons of my friends pass away in the last few years. I actually just had one of my good friends pass away this Sunday that just passed. I believe it was a car accident. I don't know all the details 100%, and I don't know if I want to know them, to be honest. But from what I heard, he was found on a road, like by his truck. So sounds like it was an accident. But it's like one of those things, like, you get tested, and then you get tested, and you get tested, and it's like, are you gonna break? Are you gonna snap? Are you gonna go back into these things? I mean, when I heard about him, you know, like I've been sober. I've been good and sober for a good while, and I love it. I love being sober. And like and that happened. I thought, I was like, well, I can go escape reality, you know, for a few hours. I can go grab a bottle, and I was tempted. Did I do it? No. I thought about it in the moment, and I said, you know what? It's not worth it. Like, why would I do that? Like, all those days are long behind me, and it's one of those things that, like, it's a test. You know, I'm not saying like, oh yeah, God did this because of this. Like, I think Satan, you know, Nick, my buddy Nick, he was a very, very spiritual person, very godly, great human being, just an amazing human being, a kind of person that I would always think in my mind, like, I mean, I have some really good, really true good friends. Like, I have a lot of friends that I've had, like 90% of my friends I've had for over 20 years. And they're amazing. Like, God's blessed me with amazing people, and all of them have a lot of similarities. All of my friends, like, I wouldn't say necessarily, actually I would say probably all of them, they have some sense of godliness. They have some sense of, they all believe that God exists, and some of them a little bit more than others. Some of them have really encouraged me. Nick was one of those people. Nick was the kind of guy that if I left my house and, like, I don't know, just an example, I go to Kentucky for some reason, you know, or I fly somewhere, whatever. I'm just not at my house, and there's no way for me to get there. And he's like, hey, I left my car keys at your house. I need them. I'd be like, all right, well, yeah, the spare keys there, you know, whatever, blah, 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 blah. I would trust him going into my house to get his keys with $1 million in cash on the table that he could take, untraceable, whatever. He would not touch a penny. And, like, he was one of those kinds of even if he knew he could get away with it and everything else, he wouldn't, because it didn't belong to him. That was the kind of character that he had. He's an amazing person. And sometimes I think about that with Satan, you know, attacking, you know, God's people. Because, I mean, look at, you know, Charlie, I don't know if people, you know, Charlie Kirk was one of those people that he was very grounded in the spirituality kind of thing, you know, like both parents in a home, and trying to do things the biblical way, just trying to encourage people to do things the biblical way. What happens? He gets assassinated. You know, it's like, it's because our world is full of evil, and the people that want, and it's not just, you know, everybody's like, yeah, those Democrats, you know, it's like, no, it's not just the liberal side. It's both sides. It's really not even the sides. It's elites. It's people that have money and power. They want to put the stranglehold on all of us. It's because they're evil. They're not good people. Not to say that all elites and all CEOs and celebrities and everything, not to say that there's not gems there, because there are. But the vast majority of them, the system as a, you know, a whole, so to speak, is toxic. It's toxic as hell, and it's cancerous, and they, all of them, they want us dead. They want us dead or enslaved. It's realistically just that. They want us to be in a constant state of sickness and panic and all these things so that they can profit from it. And it's unfortunate. Like, the only escape, realistically, the only way out of this life, the only thing in this life that really, the Bible speaks of everything being meaningless. This is meaningless. It's meaningless. The only thing that is true is having a sense of closeness with God. It really is. And it's like, yeah, we're having, you know, the things that matter. Oh, there's a Supra. That thing's nice. Sorry, a new Supra just passed me. That thing's badass. Lost my train of thought. It's a really cool car. Anyway, yeah, just having a sense of godliness is fantastic. Your family, it's love. It's weird because it's nothing lasts forever, you know, which is a true statement, but there is something that lasts forever, and I think love is eternal. You know, it's the only thing, at least in my life, that I've always wanted. I mean, yeah, it's like, yeah, I'd like to be financially, you know, stable and not have to worry and this and this and this. When I was younger, I had a little bit more of that haughtiness and stupidity. But the thing that I always wanted, the thing that I always admired most was love. I always, I wanted a good woman. I never knew if I would have kids, but I have children, and like I love them beyond anything I've ever felt in my life. I love them so much. They're amazing. And I love my wife, or my ex-wife. I loved her so much more because of that bond we shared, and all that comes from God. And the Bible says what about love? It says God is love. It also says God is eternal. So in terms, in just factual, then love is eternal. And that's something that I've always felt, because there's nothing like it. There's nothing like real love. That nothing can compare. When I was in my stupidity days and I would go out and I would just go to the bar and I would hook up with random girls and stuff like that, it was lustful. It was sex. When I would sleep with my ex, it wasn't that. I mean, yeah, some of the pleasure stuff was there, of course. I mean, because that's part of it. But the vast majority of it, like 99% of it, was love. It was making love. And that's where that term "making love" comes from. It's when you open up, it's not a matter of just, heck yeah, I'm gonna get my rocks off and this and that. It's a matter of passion, and it makes it so much better. It's so much better than any other experiences that you'll have in those physical dynamics. And it's just one of those things that's really cool. And not to get off any kind of thing I was speaking of. I know I talk in a weird pattern. Some people really understand it, and some people are like, this guy just changes subjects a lot. And it's like, yeah, because there's relevance to all of it. They all everything connects together if you really think about it, and you'll never run out of questions. Questions are just endless in this life, and if you try to dwell on them, they'll frustrate you and make you nuts. I know, because I question everything and I question the questions on top of everything. It's very overthinking, and it's a really thing that I'm working on too. But yeah, I mean, like, just going back to love, it's eternal, and it's honestly the best thing in this world. It's the best thing in this world. Best thing. It's the best thing in life, just in general. It doesn't matter. It's an encapsulation of all that is good. It really is. Just direct your focus of love on the things that matter, like family and like God, yourself. Not money or pleasures or addictions or I mean, it's easier said than done in a lot of senses for people, but just try to prioritize your focus onto loving things that are worth it, and yeah, it's just a better way of life, I think. And yeah, I think that God tests us, and I also think that Satan throws monkey wrenches in all the time to try to make us to stumble, to try to pull us away from those things. And with those tests, God said, oh, well, you passed that test, good for you. Then I think the blessings will come in. And even if they don't, even if you don't have any kind of physical, tangible blessing, you might just have a sense of peace in your heart because you did the right thing. You did the right thing, It's incredible. And I mean, I look back at my life from all the things I went through, and I've saved people's lives. When I was a child, I saved kids' lives. I saved my animals' lives. For some reason, my my stupid dogs would fall in the pool, and they would yeah, like and I remember my dog Sugar. I was out there playing like GI Joes or Ninja Turtles or something back when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and this is like in the 80s. And my dog Sugar fell in the pool, and she couldn't get out. And immediately I looked and I saw her, and she was struggling, and I jumped in to get her. I remember my buddy Jacob back in the 80s, I would say probably as well, maybe this might have been 90, but his like shoelace got stuck, wrapped around his like into his sprocket, like by his chain on his bike, and he fell, and he couldn't get up. He was trying to get up and run those car haul and butt, and I ran and I grabbed him and his bike, and I pulled him across the road. I remember a little girl. I want to say we're in Riverside in California. I was somewhere with my mom. I don't know if it's like maybe a birthday party or a work party or something. I don't remember exactly why we were there or anything like that, but I was sitting in the car for some reason, and I looked up, and there was a little girl about 100 feet away, and she was tiny. She was probably 2-3 years old, and the street was busy. And for some reason, I was just sitting there, and I saw her walk. And I want to say that the car was white. It might have been like one of those old Chryslers, perhaps. I mean, I don't know. This was like 40 years ago. And she wandered off into traffic. Like she not far, but it was far enough. Like I saw her for some reason. I don't know how or why I was paying attention, but I saw her, and I got out and I ran up and I grabbed her and I brought her back in, and I brought her to her mom. And her mom was looking for her. She didn't know where she went. And I mean, she could have walked out and got clipped by a car. I don't know. And like I think about those things, and maybe that's why God saved me, through all the things that I went through because of actions I took or good deeds. And it's not to say like, yeah, I'm great person and da-da-da-da-da. It's not anything like that. It's just a matter of I forget about things. I forget about a lot of these things in my life that I've done that are good accolades, that are not necessarily accolades, but just good deeds, I guess you could say, and kindness and things that I forget about myself of we will tend to forget who we are if we let it, and like the things that we've done. And as much as the good, it's like I would tend to forget about a lot of the good things, and I would focus on the bad, and like the shame and things like that. Like now I'm trying to correct my course. No, think about those good things that you did in your life. What about this when this happened? What about this? What about when you stuck up for your friends and you got in fights with people because your friends were getting picked on? What about this? It's and you can think about like the good things that come out of even the stupidity. My oldest friend, like he's been my friend for like, I don't know, God, close to 40 years probably. My buddy Chris, and I don't talk to him a whole ton. I still talk to him on occasion, but I met him because I used to pick on him. I bullied him. Like for some reason I just had it out for him. This is like kindergarten or something like that. And I would always beat him up after school. Always. I don't know why. He would probably antagonize me. That's probably my guess, because kind of his personality is funny kid like that. He's a little butthead. But yeah, I would always pick on him, and I don't know why, because that was very much outside my character in a lot of senses. But I had gotten like Wendy's, the restaurant Wendy's used to have, for like the kids meal thing, they would have these pins that were like cars that you could like pull back, and they'd go like hot rod kind of things. And I was collecting them, and I'd keep them in my binder at school. And like I liked them a lot. I thought they were super cool. And one day, I see Chris, and I'm like, oh, there he is. So of course I go and start it with him for I don't know why, but in the process of that, I dropped one of them, and I want to say it was blue. I want to say it was this blue hot rod thing. It was like my favorite one. I want to say it was the blue one. It could have been a yellow one, but I think it was the blue one. Anyway, that's irrelevant. But it like fell out of my binder somehow, and he grabbed it, and he's like, I got your pen, and he took off running. And I was fuming. I'm like, oh, he's dead tomorrow. I'm gonna get him, this and that. I was so mad because he took my pen. Well, later on that day, I was at my house, and I remember specifically I was sitting in my room watching Dennis the Menace, the cartoon, and Chris walks into my room. My mom let him in. Chris walks into my room, and I look up, and instead of being just irate, and mad, like, oh, my pen, I was just like, hey. And he goes, hey, I brought your pen back, right? His mom found out, or he told his mom or something. His mom, Cheryl, made him take it back to me. And it's just pretty ballsy of him, to be honest. He came in my room, and he was confident and everything else, and I was just like, oh, thanks. You want to be friends? And me and him were like inseparable until like 6th grade. Me and him were like completely inseparable, best friends, fishing all the time. We still got in fights every now and again. He would fight back. It wasn't just we'd get in our little tiffs and stuff like that. But it was just interesting though how something can just have such a radical change from this to this, and it's just one of those things. And it was so much better than that, because instead of that, me and him became little like, I mean, we had friends everywhere, but we were like inseparable, and people would not like that about us. Or like Chris would be a little butthead, and I'd get in fights for him. I'd stick up for him, and I'd get fights for him. Or I mean, hell, we'd get chased by. There'd be times we'd run and there'd be 15 kids behind us wanting to kick our ass because we did something to antagonize them or something. It's just it just is funny how life works, like how situations can go from this to this, but it's all a matter of conscious choice, of mindset, of what we do, and how things unfold. And yeah, I mean, I'm not really exactly sure where I was going with that, but it's just one of those situations, one of those funny stories that you kind of, when you start thinking about your past and the decisions you've made, the actions you've taken, and even situations where you're like, yeah, I was a jerk here and I don't know why I did this, and then all of a sudden that anger, I don't even think it was anger, it was just like, I don't even know why I would beat him up, but it just went from a situation from that to instantly, yeah, let's be friends, to something life-changing and something that was like amazing. And Chris made my childhood so much fun. Like I love Chris. Like I always will. He's my oldest friend. Like if I didn't talk to him for 10 years and he called me, he goes, hey dude, you got $1,000 that I can borrow, man? I'm kind of in a jam. I'd be like, of course, man. Obviously if I had it, it would just be one of those things. It's a lifetime contract kind of thing, right? And it's just cool how life plays out like that. Like how how it's so easy to forget things in our life, of good things or positive things or experiences that might have been weird and that ended up being fantastic. It's easy to forget the good and to focus on the bad. Like, oh, this happened. Oh, this happened. And I think that's Satan. I think that's Satan poking at our brain saying, yeah, hey, time to amplify that emotion. Yep, let's get real sad about that. Let's get angry about this. Let's do this. Let's do this. And then, like, when you're super happy, then and the joy, and you're feeling immense joy, and it's like, oh, then this happens. Your buddy passes away, and you're like, shit, that's, you're gonna let it crumble, you're gonna let it kick you down. It's like, and that's what Satan wants. He wants you to go back to those sinful ways, those being stuck, being drained, being, and I know Nick wouldn't want that. Nick wouldn't be like, yeah, he'd be like, don't mourn for me, man, just celebrate me. That's exactly what I'm gonna do. Like, I'm gonna think about him very fondly. Like, he was a good guy. He was a super good guy. And, after I moved up here, I didn't really talk to him as much as I'd like to. But we still chit-chatted. We're still really on good terms. And, I loved him. And from what his wife, he just got married not super crazy long ago. And his poor wife, she's going through it. And I was speaking with her, and she was like, Nick loved you. He was really worried about you. Like he would always tell me how he's so worried about you with everything that happened, with my ex and stuff like that, because he knew it almost killed me, to be honest. Like if I didn't have kids, I think it might have. And if it wasn't for my children and for God, above it, just giving me wisdom, giving me, peace, letting me go through the trials, letting me go through it, instead of just being like, yep, it's gonna be all right, everything's hunky-dory. Because it kind of started out like that at first. Like he was giving me that opportunity at first just to say, yeah, we're gonna go past this. You have the strength. But instead, I made the conscious choice to be an idiot and to go things about the wrong way and really dissect it, and in turn, it's made me not want to do any of these bad things anymore. It's made me stronger, so maybe that was the point, to go, yeah, hey, you're gonna have to go through it, man. You're gonna have your bouts, and you're gonna get back into alcoholism for a little while. You're gonna make some bad decisions when you're when you're alone and you're sorrowful, and your kids are off doing you don't even know what with your ex and her new husband. That was seriously the hardest thing to think about. Like, not thinking, oh yeah, your wife is sleeping with another man, your ex-wife is sleeping with another man. That wasn't the hard thing was, that really hurt, but it was your 3 beautiful children. There's another man around your 3 kids, and realistically, he spends more time with your kids now than you, because she has no responsibilities. She never had to work with me. She claims all this stuff, but it's nonsense. She doesn't have to work. She runs a daycare, right? Which she had an office, but got kind of booted out of it, from what I understand. So now she runs it out of her house. So she doesn't ever even have to leave her house. Well, it's not even their house. It's the guy's grandparents' house. They got them put in a home or something, or encouraged them to go to a home. The guy died. The woman's still alive, but they live in their house. So it's like she has no responsibility. She doesn't have to go to freaking work. She doesn't have a mortgage. She doesn't have to pay for health insurance. Like, I started my own business, so now I have to pay, for the insurance for my girls. My son's not biologically mine. And she won't let me pay for the insurance for him. I've offered. I raised him since he was 9 months old, and he's almost 13. And so, like, I've offered to pay for him. She's like, no. So I have to pay for my girls, and I have to pay for myself, obviously. So, that and a mortgage and all of my bills on the side, and I have to pay child support to her. She doesn't have the stress like I do, and I had so much of it on me that, like, when I wouldn't have my kids, I'd take my kids fun places, whatever money I had, even when going into debt, especially in the beginning, because they were super distraught, like me, and so I put myself into debt. Drove them to California to take them to Disneyland, give them a fun day. We stayed at the Disneyland hotel. It was pretty much my daughters, both of their first visit. My one daughter had been there, but she was like 1. But my littlest daughter, she had never been, and we stayed in the hotel. Something I always wanted to do when I was a kid, and I never got to. So I'm like, yeah, what better, cooler thing that I'm gonna take all 3 of them. We're gonna go, and luckily I have an aunt that works at Disneyland. She's been a Disney employee off and on for like 40 years. So I got crazy discounts, and I got free tickets and whatnot, which was still an arm and a leg. It's still freaking a $2,000 day probably, with a discount, with a 40% discount on everything and free tickets. It's insane. I don't know how people afford it, but it's yeah. But yeah, just doing those things to make my kids happy and everything else, because they were super distraught, and with it, it's one of those, I just completely kind of lost my train of thought of where I was going with that. But yeah, I mean, you'll get cut down to size. So, you know, I guess you could just say you'll get cut down to size, and you'll stay there if you let it. If you let those bad emotions, those bad thoughts, bad feelings take over, and you don't remember the good things in your life, you know, focus. Try to think about, like, back to when you did good deeds, when, you know, even if it's something small, you know, like I don't know, the time you held the door open for some person that was walking with a cane, you know, and you're like, oh, I forgot I did that. I haven't done anything like that in a long time. All right, we'll do that again, you know. Or the time you're like, oh wow, yeah, I remember there was that homeless guy that I talked to, and I remember I gave them, you know, a couple dollars. That made me feel good. I didn't tell anybody about it. Yeah, it's like, if you're gonna do actions, don't do actions just to get the recognition. To be like, oh, I did this, I'm such a good person. Like, that's not genuine at that point. Just do it out of the goodness of your heart. And I'm sure a lot of us have done that. I mean, I've done it, you know, and it's just a good thing. And it's like, it's good to reflect on those things, like, you know, not in a self, like, gloating kind of way, but like just look at it and be like, yeah, wow, just remember those positive things. Remember those positive things and be like, yep, that's the kind of human being I am. That's the kind of human being I want to be. That's who I'm going to focus to be. You know? And despite all the chaos and everything else that happens, you know, you get caught up. Oh, that's where I was going with just, like, you know, letting myself get caught up with crap because of all the bills I had to pay, of you know, missing my ex for so long, missing my children, which I still miss my children. I miss my children right now. You know, I'm looking at a picture of my daughter I have in my car, or one of my daughters, and I have a picture I'm gonna have a print out, so I have it. It's all three of them. I'm gonna put that one in here. I just have a baby picture of her from, you know, Polaroid, so I put it here, and it's kind of like an encouragement to me to look at and just go, yeah, I want to be a better man, because she deserves that, and so does my other daughter, and so does my son, you know, and so do I. And God deserves for me to try to do my best to be a good human, you know. But you get into these trying times, and you'll make bad choices, you know. And I think a lot of this stuff happened so that these things that I've struggled with for a long time stay. You know, I'm in my 40s, and since I started kind of like drinking when I was probably like 19, I'd say. You know, I had a bad breakup, and I was young and stupid, and started drinking just a little bit here or there, and started smoking a lot of marijuana, and in turn, it kind of, once I turned 21, a couple years later, it was like, oh, game on. Now all of my self-control went out the window, and all of my values, my morals, my principles, all the things that I held so firmly for so many years. I'm like, what's the point? What's the point? I let it defeat me, and I just went out in a blaze of glory, so to speak, and I was just partying and doing stupid crap for decades, you know. And so it took a while to, like, kick that habit, and I did for a while. You know, when me and my ex were together, I quit drinking for a few years, and then when we split up, I was like, well, what the heck, I'm gonna escape reality and stuff like that. And it was the totally dumb thing to do. Like, yep, I don't have my kids this week. All right, whatever. I have some extra money this week. I'm gonna do this. And I don't know. Like, I look at it, maybe God brought all that stuff about to make me willingly change it. And what has it done? It has changed it. I'm such a different human being now. Internally, that I wouldn't recognize myself, you know, like the things that are deep, you know, within me, and the things that have always been there are things that have just kind of just become more pronounced. The things that were dead in my life have kind of come back, I guess you could say, and the bad choices that I made for so many years of my life And that kind of tried to creep back in. The devil tried to put it back into me and to say, yeah, this is who you are. Just go back to it, you know. And I would sit there and I'd think, like, that's not me. That's not me. I remember even talking with my ex, being like, I you know, back when we were together, I'm like, I can't see myself going back to that. Back to being lustful. And that part has actually not been quite as strong, you know, as I thought it would have been. And, you know, I've fooled around with like 2 girls since, you know, me and her split almost 3 years ago. And it just didn't feel right. And so like, I don't want those relationships. I don't want to be sinful in my ways anymore. I just don't. And that's just like a conscious choice. And like with drinking, it's like, am I ever going to drink again? I can't say that I will or won't. As far as right now, do I want to? No, not at all. Not at all. I get weird I'll get urges and stuff like that when bad things happen, like with my buddy Nick passing away. You know, that's an opportunity for Satan to go, oh, the door is open. Come on, just open that door and walk in there. Or whatever your addiction, you know, maybe you're addicted to eating. Maybe you're addicted to playing video games. Maybe you're addicted to scrolling on your phone and yada yada. Whatever it is, we all have some kind of an addiction in some way. Or not even necessarily maybe even an addiction, just a bad habit. You know, just something that we might not do a lot, but when we do it, we tend to go overboard. Like, that's me. I don't, you know. When I was drinking every day, and I would get belligerent. You know, this is 10 years ago. And then there was times after my ex, you know, when I would be, you know, at home alone, missing my children, missing her, thinking about things, and I'd just be like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to get belligerent. You know, I got my bills paid for the month. I don't need to do this anymore. I'm just gonna sit here and I'm gonna wallow. And I'd feel sorry for myself. And in turn, all of that, I think I needed to go through, because now I look at that stuff and I just see it as being just complete foolishness. It's such a waste of time. It really is. And it's not healthy for anything. It's not healthy for anyone, and it's just not a good way to be. And I'm so much, because and what's weird too is because like I'm really a health nut. Like I eat very healthy for the most part. You know, I drink a lot of coffee. You know, which I actually just switched to mushroom coffee, that rise stuff, or risey, whatever it's called. I actually like it. I think it's so good. I think it's really freaking good. It's expensive, but it makes me feel a lot better than traditional coffee does. And yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, and I look at coffee, because that's an addiction too. It's a stimulant as well. You know, like drinking so much coffee in a day that I honestly flunk, and I'm like, what the heck? Why do I feel? And it's just like the caffeine jitters and all this stuff. My mind feels crazy, and I'm just like, why do I feel like I'm tipsy? What the heck, dude? Like, I haven't drank alcohol in months. Why do I feel like this? And it's like, oh yeah, because you're overstimulated with a substance, because coffee is, you know, it's healthy for you if you do it in the right measure and stuff like that, but it's still one of those things. And so I've tried to cut back. Well, not tried, but I've cut back a lot on coffee as well. You know, some days I go a little overboard still, and I might have, you know, 3-4 cups. But for the most part, you know, like lately I might have 1, you know, and I'll do my mushroom coffee. I'll do it with milk. I put milk in it, and to me, I'm like, yeah, it's just an extra boost of protein and whatnot. And it's so good. I really enjoy it. Put a little honey in it, some cinnamon, and it's really good. But just going back to that, it's like I tend to try to be really healthy. And it's like why would you drink alcohol? That's like the worst thing you can do for your body, aside from maybe like smoking. Might even be worse than smoking, I don't know. And yeah, I've come to the conscious decision, you know, and conclusion to say, I don't want this in my life anymore. And, you know, I think about it, maybe God said, no, you know, I'm going to give you strength for this, because God has, you know, I prayed for it, because I'm like, I don't like this, but I'm so sad, I'm so miserable, so to speak. I miss my kids so much, I miss her, I want to be better, I want to do better. You know, why do I keep putting myself through this stupidity? And in turn, I said, you know what, all right, I'm going to turn the other cheek. I'm going to forgive. Doesn't mean I'm going to forget. Doesn't mean I can forget, because, I mean, it's kind of a hard thing too, but I do forgive her, and I want good for her. I would never want anything bad for her. I hope she's happy, and like I say, I'll always have a love for her. But it's one of those things. Okay, now I've started my own business, you know, and I'm doing pretty well. I mean, I'm going to get to a point here that I'm going to be making more money in my business. I mean, I probably make near as much right now. I'm still waiting on a couple things, because the system takes so long to do anything for it to be 100% set in stone. And I mean, it's realistically like 98% right now. Just waiting on like 2 things, and then it'll be good. I should have that any day here, so that's cool. And just a lot of those problems, like, I'm sitting there with all these bad things, just one after another, seeing like the whole world's caving in on me. I was trying forever to find a job out here that was something good, and I was like working these jobs of like crap hours, like 12-hour shifts, so like they interfered with seeing my kids, and I wasn't making money, or these jobs were like extremely, some of them were like real dangerous, and the money was just like, I'm not gonna put myself climbing up ladders that are, you know, 200 feet in the air with all this crazy machinery. Like, one of the guys was saying, like, somebody accidentally turned the machine on and his arm was in there, and he's like, I could have lost my arm. And it's like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that for freaking $19 an hour, dude. We're working 9-hour days. I'm like, what I do with my business now, I make more money in like 5 hours than I would in a whole week there, you know. And it's like, it's crazy. It's crazy, you know. And my business partner and stuff like that, you know, it's really just an interesting thing. Like, when you start focusing on things outside of that, you know, like I just put everything in God's hands and say, you know what, I'm not going to stress about this crap anymore. I'm not going to worry about this. I'm not going to be sad about this. It's in God's hands. I'm going to trust Him that everything's going to work out. You know what? Everything works out, and everything has been working out. And like, in the midst of all that turmoil, it started, you know, we get rain here in Idaho, and I started hearing what the hell is that? To go into my kitchen to find water coming out from my light fixture in my roof, which it hasn't done since, which is weird. It only did it the one time, but there's a spot in my roof in my kitchen. Water would get all over my cabinets, inside my cabinets. My roof was leaking, and I'm like, what the heck, man? What is this? I'm like, oh, perfect. What great time. I don't have $20,000 to repair my roof. And I'm like, well, crap, I have a thunderstorm, I'm at work, and I come home and there's an inch of water in my kitchen. I'm like, oh, great. This is spectacular. What a great thing to happen, right? And I'm so down, so irritated. Well, I'm like, I got to get it repaired somehow, you know. So I call a roofer, and he comes over, and he's like, so who's your homeowner's insurance? I'm like, I don't even know if I have homeowner's insurance. Apparently you have to, but I didn't know I did. And he's the one who brought that to my attention. I'm like, all right. So I called, and I might actually get a brand new roof on my house for nothing through my insurance, because this guy's really good at claims, and a lot of stuff that is going on in my roof is very very old and outdated and against code and Idaho law and stuff like that. So it looks like I'm gonna get a roof in place, and it's like one of those things I was stressing about, just one of those other things that was just boiling on me, and I'm like, oh God, it just won't stop. It's one thing after another, and it's like, I started putting my trust in God, and I'm just like, you know what, everything seems to be unfolding and working out. The things that were such big problems, don't stress about it. Seriously, it's like yeah, you know, it's kind of hard not to, but in the scope of things, they tend to unfold. It's like that movie. Was it Harold and Kumar? There's the black dude that's in the prison cell, and he's like, you know, they just say like, don't get distracted by a bunch of idiots around you or something. He's like, the world or the universe has a way to unfold. It tends to unfold the way it should and stuff like that. You know, the guy's like, he's like, plus I have a big penis that helps or whatever. It's just kind of funny, but that analogy though of the universe tends to unfold, like just don't trip about it. Just don't, you know, it's realistically things aren't as bad as they seem. And it's like with people with anxiety and stuff like that. They're, you know, people will think of this and this and this. It's like 90% of the things that we think in our head and whatnot, they're problems that we cause for ourselves that aren't true. The things that probably won't happen, they haven't happened, but yet we worry about those things because in our mind, it's kind of like a defense mechanism. Like, oh, well, what if it does happen? Because there is the possibility, sure, but that doesn't mean that it will. And instead of just looking at it from a, you know, an optimistic side, being like, oh yeah, no, things are going to work out great, we tend to go to the, you know, no, it's not going to work out, this is going to get worse and this is going to be bad, blah blah blah. We focus on the bad instead of the good. Anyway, I've been on the video here for an hour and 11 minutes, and yeah, I guess I've ranted enough. I have such a long drive. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna post a video. I still have like 100 miles to go. I'm gonna post a video and, you know, this and that. So sorry for the long rant. If people have stayed this long, which probably none of you have, but if you have, I appreciate it, and I hope anything I said is some kind of encouragement to you. And if it is, just know that it's not me. That's God. It's all good things come from God. All good things come from God. And yeah, let's just try to be better humans. All right, just look back at the good things you do. Don't always just focus on the bad things. It's easier to focus on negativity because negativity is such a part of this world. It's like when you walk into a room. Like let's say you were to walk into a cold meeting of Satan worshipers. You'd walk in there and you would instantly feel that negativity, the deadness, the bad energy. Now go to a really uplifting Christian church and walk into that. You'll feel the positivity. You'll feel that. Well, this world has so much negativity anymore that it's just a constant negative energy that's around us. So it's really easy to get consumed into the negative instead of looking for that positive and focusing on the positive. Everything has a silver lining, and that's something I've learned too. It's very easy to get complacent and focus on bad things instead of looking at it from a perspective of, like my roof. I would say, oh, and it's like, no, there's this huge silver lining. Wow, things that I wasn't even aware of, and now it's like, oh, cool. Looks like this is actually going to happen and take place. How fantastic. You know, it's just, there's always a good thing to everything. So try to focus on the good. Try to look for the good in everything we do. And be good humans. Treat everybody the way you'd want to be treated. It's like golden rule, you know. I tell my kids that too. It's like, if you want good things, then do good things to others. You know, you reap what you sow, like the Bible says. So anyway, I'll leave it at that, guys. Thank you, and gals. If you stuck around this long and listened to my boring dribble, I appreciate it. Hopefully, I sparked a little encouragement in anybody, or if you just enjoyed me ranting and talking in circles and whatever it is that I do. I don't know, because I don't even understand it myself sometimes, but that's just kind of how I speak. Then yeah, I appreciate it, and I hope I was able to bring some encouragement, and I hope that you guys seek God. You know, try it, you won't be disappointed, I guarantee that. All right, be good human beings. All right, catch you guys on the flip-flop. All right, later.